Michael Anfield here. Thank you for joining me. So, as I mentioned in my previous video, that I would create a video about what happened in my last few months in Belize. As some of you know, I'm back in Canada, and I want to tell you this story. Hopefully my phone won't cut off because I don't have much space on there, and I have some notes that some points that I want to discuss. This by far being the hardest video that I've ever made, and so there's so much that I could say, but I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible. But it's going to be a long video, of course, and I hope there's no background noise. There's now a train there, and so yeah, so ever since I became vegan, which was in 2009, so about 9 years ago, there's been so much injustice and so much evil that I'm witnessing through my outlook, through my just seeing out there. And I understand that it is just a program. It is just something that has been put on to human beings, and I can't get angry at it. Now at times I get depressed that this world isn't, a better place for everyone, that millions upon millions, even billions of animals, non-human and human animals, are suffering slaughterhouses, in wars and famine and so forth. And I wish that this world that we were living in, a paradise, a utopia society, and unfortunately it's not possible to live in such a society. Maybe in a vegan world in our lifetime, but never a perfect world, because a vegan world is not really a perfect world, because there is still some harm. And of course you can check out my other videos on that, how much harm, and it can't be 100% vegan and all this stuff. So first I'd like to say a little meditation, a little prayer. And this is something I feel that everyone should, every single day should meditate on. It should be calm and tranquil. And so, saying our gratitudes and having a little meditation, even if it's just a few minutes, to get out of all this chaos and this rampant, like fast-paced world that we live in. Always going somewhere, always something on our mind, and we're never calm. We're never in this state of tranquility. So, the only one thing I want to say about this meditation is that we need to be at peace and love with everyone. And that's the only way we're going to get to a loving world. If we want to get to a loving world, we have to love everyone. And sometimes people just don't understand this. Just don't understand this concept. How can you love your enemy? How can you love, evil people? So, as you know, I'm more of an anarchist, so I don't believe in hierarchy systems, and I'm not a fan of the government or human-made laws. Now again, I'm not saying that I would like to see tomorrow all the human laws and the governments like cease to exist, because that would make the world chaotic. People would steal and people would kill, and people would cause all sorts of violence towards one another. So governments and laws, human-made laws that is, does somewhat protect us, but more, it enslaves us. And even if you don't think it does, or you think that I'm just talking bullshit, there's going to be a lot of people that really don't agree with what I'm about to say. And then, of course, there are some that do. But these are not my own words. These come from within me. Some people can call that God. Some people can call it universe. Whatever you want to call that. Intuition. So, as most of you know, it's not possible to live totally an anarchist life. It's not possible because we live in this society where, in this culture where we have to somewhat conform. Now, I don't like a lot of the government laws. I don't like the injustice that's happening throughout the world. But unfortunately, we live in this world where, you have to pay taxes, you have to pay for insurance, you have to, conform to all these things, you have to get a driver's license in order to drive, like all these things, you have to use money. And I'm sorry that the video is like moving too much, but I don't have a real selfie stick. But in any case, that being said, I don't think that, ceasing to not have government tomorrow, or not having money tomorrow, is appropriate thing, because everything would crash. People would be killing and stealing from one another, harming one another. And so, as most of you know, I've been living in Belize, Central America, for about 8 months. And I can tell you that it is an amazing place overall. But just like everywhere else, the laws, the human-made laws, the governments, the politics, and just the society is like very slow-paced. It's a very slow-paced life there. And the governments are very corrupt. The courts, the legality system, the police officers are more corrupt than in a lot of countries. Now, people think because it is a Central American country that this is a third world country, it's a corrupt country, there's a lot of violence and drugs. And the whole thing is, that's not absolutely true. Yes, there's drugs just like anywhere else. And by drugs, I don't mean naturally occurring herbs like cannabis. Cannabis is not a drug. They consider it to be, but it's not a drug in my book. Even though I do not consume it, like smoke it. I see nothing wrong with consuming it with your food as a herb, or smoking it, or anything like that. Now, I've been living in Belize with 8 months. I initially was going to go there by cycling all the way down. And I wanted to try something new. I wanted to experience life, and I wanted to go through the U.S., Mexico, and Belize. And a lot of people thought I was crazy for doing this. But then again, there were a lot of people that were congratulating me, and they themselves said that they wished that they were me, and they were doing it. So it didn't really work out. And anyways, long story short, my friend and I, we decided to take a plane all the way down from Toronto to Cancun, Mexico, and from there we took a bus to Belize City, and we went to Cayo District. So basically what happened was, my friend stayed only a month. He really didn't like he loved the Belize, but he just didn't like the working conditions and the farm, all this stuff, because it's hard work. Farming is really hard work. And he just didn't know how hard it was. And you got to give and take. You have a beautiful place and you have a farm, you got to take care of it. And it's hard work, you know, in the beginning especially. At least for the first few years. So, just looking at my notes here so I don't forget everything. So, again, everybody has their bad and good times in their lives, and sometimes the bad times are really low and sometimes the good times are really high. And sometimes people just don't understand our own personal lives because they are not us, and they judge us because they see us on the outside failing so many times, but they don't see the positives. And when you tell them about the positive, they don't understand it because they're not at. They still kind of have veil over their eyes. And so, basically, when I went to Belize and finally met, I'm not going to mention a name, but of course most of you know who that person is. But basically when I met this person, I was a being. I was already kind of an anarchist. I really didn't like governments and all these things, you know. But he taught me a lot, and he taught me a lot in the sense of governments and how corrupted they are and how corrupted the whole world is. And he really opened my eyes more. And of course, my eyes been open for a while now, for about 8-9 years. Being vegan, meditating for like 15 years now, and really understanding the deep spiritual impact, not just of animal agriculture, but of so many things, so many social justice issues around the world. So he told me a lot about these issues, and they all made sense. And probably the thing that really didn't make that much sense was him telling me about how some actors are doubles or triples, in that they play other actors. They're actually the same actor as like 2 or 3 others. And a lot of politicians I know are actors, and a lot of celebrities out there are actors. A lot of politicians are actors. And I understand this, but you know, a lot of it I just don't believe, you know. Just like anything, we all have our views, and it's we don't believe in everything. And of course, I don't believe in everything. He believes in a flat earth, and I don't believe there is we live on a sphere, earth, a globe. I don't believe there is outer space. Outer space is right in front of us. But then again, I don't believe we live on a totally flat plane. But as you can see, whenever you go into an airplane, or whenever you're on a mountain or anything like that, you can see that majority of the land is flat, besides of course mountains and so forth. So he taught me a lot, and I'm very, very thankful for the love and for the teachings that he has taught me. He's taught me a lot also in respect to veganism, and understanding that when people have pets and people have sanctuaries, that the animals are not free. And of course the animals are not free, and so we should not be supporting that. And again, people would be criticizing me for this and this view, and I'm not taking his side, or I'm not believing everything that he's saying. Some people say I'm very naive, and in some way I am, and everybody is in some way, because we all have to. The way I see it is listen to everybody, but not necessarily take any of their views as your own. And so I see it as, I don't like people lying to me. You know, I don't like NASA and governments lying to me. I don't like them stealing from people. I don't like them killing other people and creating wars and all these things. And so the whole idea is that I look into my own heart for the answers, which really comes from the universe or God. So what has happened basically, and I understand I did a lot of research, but there are of course things that I just didn't research because you just don't know until it happens. So I understood that you need to have a passport and you need to have correct visas and stamping and everything for your passport. I understand the Belizean laws pertaining to visas and passports. I understand that. I understand about taxes and licenses and so forth. And tell you the truth, even though we do live in an unjust world, and we do live with laws that I think are really unjust. In some way, I mean, I don't like the fact that we have to have all these licenses and we have to have these insurances and we have to have, conform to society, and we have to, I don't know, we just have to, pay the government all this money and the city all this money, which basically goes to the government, and then of course the shadow government or Illuminati. Now, if you go against the law, if you go against the government, human-made laws, most likely you'll be jailed or at least fined. And I understand this, but I didn't think it would go to the extent that it did when I was living in Belize. I thought I was going to live in Belize for longer term, and if I ever wanted to go out of Belize, take a trip out of Belize to Canada or wherever, I would figure out what I would do in that meantime if I didn't get my passport stamped. And people say, well, you're stupid because you should have known that you need to get your passport stamped and you have to, abide by the laws and everything. And I mean, if we do, are we truly free? Is the government is enslaving us? Why do we have to pay all this money to the government to enslave us? Why do we have all these fake imaginary borders, country borders? Why do we have all these things? Because they're here to enslave us, and people say that they're here to protect us because then anybody could come into your country. And the thing is, tens of thousands of years, that's what happened. People just went wherever they wanted. And people say, well, back then there was a lot of injustice too, and there was a lot of wars and a lot of violence, and we don't know anything about 10,000 years ago or 20,000 or 100,000, or even if we existed 100,000 years ago. Because I question everything. I question a lot of things, and people say, well, when you question, you don't really, your mind is like just racing, and in a way it's kind of true. Like, I'm just meditating on all this, like, how did we become? How did this earth become? How is there really a God? All these things. And what or who is God? Because I see God differently than most religious people. So, getting to the chase, eventually I did not stamp my passport. I stamped it for the first month. I came in legally with a passport from Cancun City to Belize City, and then I did not stamp it after that. Belize has the laws pertaining to immigration are very, very harsh, and you need to stamp your passport every month. And if you miss a day or even a few hours, they'll throw you in prison. So if you have an accident and you can't get to the office where you stamp your passports, you'll be thrown into jail if they catch you. if you have an emergency and you need to, but not even that. Why do we have to conform to society? Why can't we just live a life that we want to live? Why do we have to pay for all these things? And some people agree, some people won't agree. And I'm not saying they should agree with me on anything. I'm just sharing my thoughts and views. And when Adam and Eve, I truly believe there was a Garden of Eden. I don't know if it was exactly like it says in the Bible, but there was a Garden of Eden. And Adam and Eve did not have anything. They had a fruit paradise, utopia society. They were living in a utopia world, and they basically were nothing until they sinned, until they ate the forbidden fruit. And then after that, that's when everything went downhill from there. So anyways, I was imprisoned with my friend that I was with. I was on the farm. I came middle of June 2017. July, August, September, October, November. So it was about 5 months I was on the farm. And for 3 months, they arrested me in November.